On my 18th birthday, I slept with my little uncle and fled the country. 4 years later, I'm forced to return, only to find he's a cold, possessive stranger. He's been tracking my every move, and this time he won't let me run. Please listen to the story. At my coming-of-age ceremony that year, I got my little uncle drunk and slept with him. Afterward, I hurriedly pulled on my dress and fled the country that very night. 4 years later, I returned. At the family banquet, little uncle still maintained a calm expression, the superior air of an elder. But that night, he trapped me in bed. His long, slender fingers with their distinct knuckles gripped my chin tightly. Since you love running so much, I'll just lock you up so you can never escape again. The thing was, as soon as the plane landed, I immediately turned off airplane mode. The first message that caught my eye was from Adrian Fu. Little Jenna, I'm waiting for you at the gate. My eyes stung and my hands trembled slightly. Before leaving, I had emphasized to grandfather that I could get home by myself. Yet, the family still sent someone to pick me up, and that person was Adrian. Pulling my suitcase out of the exit, I immediately recognized his black car. The color was a deep, steady black, exuding an air of stability, just like its owner. Adrian was leaning against the car, his gaze fixed on his phone screen. It seemed like he was texting someone. Through the floor-to-ceiling glass, I quietly observed the contours of his face, my heart skipping a beat. It had been 4 years, but Adrian hadn't changed at all. Still that cold, elegant appearance, every frown or downward glance was enough to inadvertently captivate someone. Men cannot defeat beauty. Perhaps this is what they meant. I took a deep breath, stubbornly walked forward, and called out, "Little uncle." Adrian looked up, his gaze swept over me, making me feel as if I were seen through. I gave a light cough, awkwardly speaking, "Long time no see." He paused for 2 seconds, his voice flat. "It has indeed been a very long time." He helped me put my luggage in the trunk. Through his shirt I could see the outline of his tensed muscles. Forcing myself to suppress the strange feeling in my heart. The wind on the main road was blowing hard. I pretended to put on headphones to listen to music. But Adrian wouldn't leave me in peace. "Grandfather missed you very much. Why didn't you come back even once all these years?" I had no choice but to take off my headphones. Thinking to myself, if it hadn't been for grandfather's order, I would have settled abroad and never returned to this place that made me so miserable for my entire life. I answered perfunctorily, "It was nothing. Studying was just too busy." Adrian's eyes glanced at the rearview mirror. Meeting his gaze, I immediately lowered my head. "You've graduated now. Are you planning to join the family company?" I haven't thought about it yet." I looked down, fiddling with the silver chain on my wrist without saying anything. On the bracelet was an expensive and splendid pink diamond. Under the sunlight, it sparkled as if it held an entire girlish world within it. For the past 4 years I had rubbed this diamond almost smooth. Adrian said nothing more. When we arrived at the old house, relatives and friends were all there. Amidst the lively atmosphere, grandfather, still robust, pretended to be angry, puffing out his beard and widening his eyes. Jenna. When you agreed to study abroad back then, I was so happy. Who knew that once you left, you'd be gone for good, not even coming back to visit your old grandpa once. This old heart has been so cold." I stuck out my tongue and giggled. "Well, now haven't I returned? Grandfather is older now, but his temperament is more like a child's. As for Adrian, he's only 10 years older than me, yet he carries the stern demeanor of an elder even more seriously than grandfather, especially when facing me." Grandfather placed a shrimp in my bowl, laughing as he said, "If you hadn't come back soon, you might not have even made it in time for your little uncle's wedding." I had just taken a bite of a shrimp ball and almost spat it all out. I coughed until I was breathless, my face flushed red. Someone patted my back, someone hurriedly poured water. Adrian sat across from me, his indifferent eyes unwavering. Only his voice was, as always, deep, clear, and pleasant. "Grandfather, you're teasing me again. The marriage alliance hasn't been decided yet." It took a long time for me to catch my breath. My chest filled with shock and confusion. I didn't dare look up at the person opposite me, but even without looking, I could imagine Adrian's expression right now. It was surely that same composed, indifferent, and calm look as always. I liked Adrian. I don't even know when it started, I only remember when I was 7. The first time I saw him brought home, I simply saw him as an older brother. A stunningly handsome older brother, with a delicate face and a gentle aura. Even though my father corrected me, saying he wasn't my brother, that I had to call him little uncle. I stared at the tall, slender, figured, handsome-faced young man in front of me. But I just couldn't bring myself to say those 2 words, little uncle. At that time I still didn't understand why grandfather had such a young son. That year Adrian was 17. He was still a bright young man, not as cold as he was now. That young man reached out his hand to me, calling softly, "Little Jenna." Adrian used to dote on me. He took me everywhere to play, buying me all the foods I liked. But starting which year did everything begin to change? My father once said that ever since Adrian started studying business and participating in commercial training, things were no longer the same. That year, during my middle school summer vacation, I returned home and barely recognized him. Adrian, in his 20s, had completely shed the immaturity of his youth. He had become more composed, indifferent, and reserved. His eyes seemed to have lost their warmth, but hidden deep within was a dangerous aura, as if he could easily control everything in his sight. It was also at that moment that I realized I liked him. Perhaps because I grew up surrounded by love, I was bold enough to confess my feelings directly, and Adrian also rejected me just as directly. There wasn't even a gentle lie like, "Wait until you grow up, and I'll marry you," or any words of comfort. Facing me time and time again, every time I expressed my feelings, he would just use his low, gentle, yet cruel voice to say, "Little Jenna, don't be ridiculous." The older brother, aura around Adrian gradually transformed into that of an elder, as if my confessions were, in his eyes, just the childish innocence of a little girl. In the 12th grade, at my roommate's birthday party, we booked a spot at a bar. When the game of truth or dare got heated, I was dared to hug the hot guy sitting across from us. He was a genuinely, dazzlingly handsome guy, his eyes full of anticipation as if waiting for me to approach. We had all had a little to drink and everyone was slightly tipsy. I looked at him and my heart suddenly felt conflicted. What if I just pretended he was Adrian? With that thought, I took a deep breath, ready to reach out and hug him, but right at that moment, a familiar voice rang out from behind me, cold and deep, carrying a hint of suppressed anger. "What are you doing?" Immediately after, a large hand gripped my wrist. Adrian's appearance instantly overshadowed the op guy. After all, how could a group of high school students compare to a man in his 20s who was the future heir to a major corporation? That was the first time I saw Adrian genuinely angry. Unfortunately, it wasn't because I was about to hug someone else. He dragged me into the car, and I had to listen to him repeat his lectures over and over, which annoyed me. "You're still young, you're not allowed in places like this, you're not allowed to drink." I really wanted to ask him, "Then why are you allowed to go to bars?" But after thinking about it, I didn't ask. He was an adult, an elder. Wherever he went wasn't my business to interfere. His eyes at that time held a hint of annoyance, even disgust. Perhaps he just hated the smell of alcohol on me. If Adrian truly cared about me, even just a little, I don't think he would have stopped at just warnings. And the only punishment Adrian gave me was cutting my daily cherry ration in half. Nothing else. Adrian had also reached marriageable age. As a member of the Fu family, he naturally had to bear the responsibility of strengthening the family corporation. The best way was, of course, a marriage alliance. My heart ached with a bitter, suffocating pain. I lowered my head, clutching my phone, feeling completely out of place at the banquet. Leo Meng sent me a message on WeChat asking if the party was over. I hadn't replied yet. I stared blankly at my phone, but my eyes would occasionally steal a glance at Adrian. I was the one who needed to let go. Leo was a guy I met while studying abroad. Good grades and his family background wasn't bad either. But the best thing about him was that his face bore a slight resemblance to Adrian. It was only after getting to know Leo that I understood what "all things are mere substitutes" meant. What "no cloud is beautiful after seeing the one at Mount Wo" truly felt like. He looked like Adrian, but he wasn't entirely the same. Adrian was cold and taciturn, while Leo was outgoing, approachable, rich, and handsome. Leo was never short of women around him, including me, who had tried to find Adrian's shadow in him in a foreign land. Then one day, suddenly, I was the only one left by Leo's side. He pulled my hand and placed it on his chest, his gaze serious to the point of being unfamiliar. "Jenna Fu, can I officially pursue you?" Any face that resembled Adrian saying this would make me daze out for a moment. But I knew Leo was a certified playboy. After I rejected him, he didn't give up. Instead, he persistently pursued me even after I returned to the country. It turned out the Meng family was also a family of status, their family business developing quite well. Leo's conditions were becoming more and more like Adrian's. While I was lost in my wandering thoughts, my phone vibrated again. It was a message from Leo. "If you can't avoid drinking, try to drink less." It turned out Leo had also returned to the country around the same time as me. I was so engrossed in the message that I didn't hear someone calling me. Little Jenna. An auntie next to me nudged me gently, her voice a reminder. They're asking you a question. Only then did I snap back to reality and look around. The topic at the dinner table had shifted to choosing a bridesmaid for Adrian's wedding. I wasn't married, hadn't even been in a relationship, and I had a delicate and beautiful appearance. I was truly the perfect choice for a bridesmaid. A woman said with a smile. Later, when Adrian finds someone suitable, little Jenna can be his bridesmaid. A group of relatives beamed, their smiles wide. My lips twitched. I didn't nod, nor did I shake my head. I just used the opportunity to glance at Adrian. In that instant, I thought I'd seen it wrong. I seemed to see a flash of anger cross his brow, but in a split second, his face returned to its usual coldness. My heart tightened. Could it be? Does he hate me that much? He's not even willing to have me as a bridesmaid. Thinking back, it was true I used to be very annoying, always clinging to him, confessing my feelings, refusing to give up even when rejected. I never once asked him what he thought. During my 4 years abroad, I had also seen news about Adrian. As his career soared in the business world, the media began to speculate which prestigious family's daughter he would marry. My mind in turmoil, I poured a glass of red wine and drank it in one gulp. Then I found a chance to leave the table and went out to the balcony for some air, wanting to calm down and sort out the chaotic thoughts in my head. The moon was bright. I loosened my hair, letting it fall over my shoulders. Leaning against the railing, I gazed into the distant night, unconsciously reaching up to take off my bracelet. I held it up towards the moonlight. Under the moon, the pink diamond sparkled, brilliant and dreamlike, just like my once passionate girlish heart. Now, just the one sentence, "Adrian is getting married," was enough to make my heart ache so much I couldn't breathe. I fiddled with the bracelet, remembering the day I received it. It was 4 years ago, my coming-of-age gift from Adrian. It was also the very reason I had fled abroad without hesitation for 4 long years. That day was my coming-of-age party, all my relatives and friends were there. Adrian, of course, was no exception. He arrived on time. An impeccable suit, hair as black as ink. Every line of his sharp features made it hard to look away. Many daughters from prominent families who knew our family were drawn to him. But I was extremely lucky because that day, Adrian's gaze followed only me. He paid no attention to the girls surrounding him, spending the whole evening quietly by my side. Like a little uncle, yet also like an older brother, taking meticulous care of me. When it was time for gifts, in front of everyone, Adrian took out a sparkling silver bracelet. He personally put it on my wrist. Under the lights, the pink diamond on the bracelet reflected on my pale wrist. My heart felt like it was about to take flight. Little Jenna, congratulations on coming of age. At that moment, Adrian's gaze on me was so serious, so intense, that I seemed to see a hint of obsession hidden within it. As if that sentence wasn't just a simple congratulation. Since I was the star of the party, no one stopped me from drinking. I stubbornly dragged Adrian to drink with me until I was completely wasted. The birthday party ended, and I insisted on going to Adrian's house. I heard that no one could convince me to drop the idea. I was as stubborn as a bull, absolutely determined to go. So Adrian just took me. He drove with intense focus, his serious demeanor captivating. I leaned back in the passenger seat, just quietly watching him. Adrian glanced at me several times, his gaze direct and unwavering. "What are you looking at?" I was already very drunk. I shook my head, grinned, and reached out to pull his arm. "Little uncle. I like you." Perhaps afraid that I would continue to bother him while he was driving, Adrian suddenly accelerated, speeding straight home. I couldn't stand properly. So he carried me inside. I don't remember clearly what happened after that. The fragmented memories in my mind only contained the sound of Adrian's suppressed, heavy breathing. When I woke up, it was past 300 am, I was completely naked. Adrian's steady breathing sounded right behind my ear. The moment I realized I was being held tightly by him, my drunkenness instantly vanished, but in my mind there wasn't a trace of joy, only pure panic. I knew Adrian didn't like me, he only saw me as a niece. It was I who had taken advantage of him when his guard was down. Even so, I greedily cherished being in his arms for just a moment longer, just one moment. Then, I carefully slid out of bed and got dressed. I booked the earliest flight that night. The next morning, I proactively told grandfather I wanted to study abroad. He happily agreed, even asking if I was finally going because I had listened to my little uncle's advice. I could only force a smile. After that, I got away from Adrian as fast as I could. I even blocked his WeChat for a while. I truly didn't dare to think about what he would say if he messaged me. But reality proved I had overthought it. Adrian never mentioned that night again. The few messages he sent me were just to ask about my situation or to say that grandfather missed me. I didn't even know if I should feel disappointed or relieved. The cool night breeze brushed past. I looked down at the message from Leo on my phone. Politely speaking, I should probably reply. Just as I was about to type, there was a sound behind me. Immediately after, Adrian appeared beside me. My hand froze, and I subconsciously turned off the screen. Neither of us spoke. Only the sound of steady breathing broke the silence. The memories of that night when I turned 18 suddenly rushed back. Sweet, bitter, my heart in turmoil. Adrian was the first to speak. "Don't mind what your aunt said earlier." I froze for a few seconds before reacting. He was talking about the bridesmaid matter. The night wind blew my hair, strands flying messily and covering my face. Suddenly, Adrian reached out. His movement was very gentle, brushing the tangled hair aside for me. He looked at me and said slowly, "Little Jenna, you're grown up now." I never expected that the first thing he would say to me after all these years would be this. I unconsciously looked up at him. Under the moonlight, Adrian's eyes, usually calm and cold, now held a faint trace of tenderness. I was stunned. My heart felt as if a wave had crashed over it. The feelings I had suppressed for so many years surged up again, even my breathing became chaotic. Adrian's eyes could speak, but I couldn't understand what he was saying right now. The sudden ringing of my phone shattered the heavy atmosphere. I looked down and saw it was Leo calling. My reason immediately returned. I answered the call, unconsciously turning my back to Adrian. On the other end, Leo's somewhat anxious voice came through, but the background noise was quite loud. "You didn't reply to my message, so I was worried you drank too much and decided to call," he asked, his voice low and full of concern. I gripped the phone, completely ignoring the reaction of the person behind me. "I'm fine, I was just busy with something. Thank you, Leo." Leo chuckled softly on the other end. "That's good. As long as you're okay, I'm relieved. Remember, don't drink too much." He was about to say something else, but just then, a woman's voice called his name from a distance. Leo only had time to add a few more words of caution before hanging up. The balcony fell silent again. But this time it wasn't a gentle silence, but a cold one. Adrian's voice suddenly became low, carrying a trace of coldness. "Who called?" I put my phone away and shook my head. "A friend," he repeated, his tone unreadable. "Friend." Adrian echoed the word as if weighing something. "Boyfriend." I quickly shook my head. "No, just a normal friend." How ridiculous. Adrian clearly knew best who I liked. He held out his hand, his gaze indifferent. "Let me see." I didn't know what he intended to do, but I obediently opened my call history for him. The screen simply showed the two words, Leo. Adrian stared at the name, silent for a moment. "Then why did you sneakily turn your back to answer it?" I froze, flustered, trying to explain. "I didn't mean to. Leo looks a bit like you. During my years abroad, I really did look at him and think of you. But after returning, I realized that no matter how much someone resembles him, Adrian is still Adrian. Once he himself appears, everyone else becomes just a pale shadow." The air between us was heavy with silence for a moment. Then, Adrian handed my phone back to me and turned to leave the balcony, heading back to the living room. I lowered my eyes and followed silently. After a few rounds of drinks, my father had already left, saying he had work to attend to. As everyone began to leave, I was also preparing to call a car. But a black car suddenly stopped right in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Adrian's cold face. His voice was low, permitting no refusal. "I'll take you home." I knew very well I couldn't defy him. I still got into Adrian's car, but this time, I didn't sit in the passenger seat, I sat in the back. The window was wide open, and the wind blowing in was bitingly cold. Adrian drove in silence, saying nothing. It wasn't until I realized the road ahead didn't seem right that I finally spoke up. "Little uncle, this isn't the way to my house." He didn't answer. The car slowly came to a stop. I looked at the villa in front of me, it felt somewhat familiar. Adrian got out of the car, walked around, and opened the door for me. I froze. This was his house. A sense of unease welled up inside me. I hesitated for a moment. The last time I was here was 4 years ago. Noticing I hadn't gotten out, Adrian turned to look at me, his eyes deep. "Like whirlpools drawing you in. Get in." The interior of the house hadn't changed at all, it was exactly as I remembered. I suddenly admired my own memory. But why did Adrian bring me here? "Come sit." He opened the refrigerator and took out 2 bottles of wine. The feeling of unease inside me intensified. Everything was matching my memories from 4 years ago. "Aren't you drinking, little uncle?" Suddenly, he grabbed my wrist. The force wasn't strong, but it was enough to make me lose my balance and fall onto the sofa. He sat down right after. The distance between us was so close I could feel his cool breath and the invisible, overwhelming pressure from him. I had never seen an Adrian this proactive before. The man in front of me was too unfamiliar, leaving me unsure how to face him. This was also the first time I had ever refused Adrian. I didn't take the glass of wine from his hand. His gesture of offering the wine paused in mid-air, but he didn't retract it immediately. I could feel his gaze fixed intently on me. "What's wrong? Weren't you a good drinker before?" He tilted his head back and drained the glass in his hand in one go. From the corner of my eye, I saw his Adam's apple bob slightly. I had seen him drink before, when I was 12, just starting middle school. I came home that day and happened to see grandfather, my father, and Adrian sitting and talking. They were drinking and he was drinking too. He looked beautiful when he drank. His Adam's apple moved slightly with each swallow. But the moment he saw me walk in, his gaze changed slightly. Father and grandfather hadn't noticed my presence, only Adrian glanced at me. That one look suddenly made me feel he was a stranger. It was as if in his eyes, I was no longer just a simple niece. Adrian poured another glass and placed it in front of me. I picked up the glass but just stared at the liquid inside, not drinking. My eyelashes trembled. I called out to him, "Little uncle." He didn't answer right away, just gave a faint smile, picked up his own glass, and drank it all in one gulp. The faint scent of wine lingered on his breath. In 4 years, little Jenna has really grown up a lot. I couldn't guess his thoughts, so I could only reply softly, "Little uncle hasn't changed at all." "Is that so?" Adrian let out a soft laugh, then suddenly leaned in close to me. I was startled and instinctively put my hands on his chest. My palms touched his firm, warm body, making my face flush red. Even though I wasn't fully conscious 4 years ago, my body still remembered this feeling. He pulled me closer, his hot breath fanning across my face. "I haven't changed, I'm still stuck on the day you turned 18. His words stunned me. I looked up and met his gaze, which felt even more unfamiliar. Adrian was no longer the person he was before. The stern, elderly demeanor was gone. I started to panic, wanting to pull away. But he quickly grabbed my wrist. His hand was very hot, his breath thick with the smell of wine. His drunken eyes stared at me intently. "Little Jenna, is Leo your boyfriend or not?" His voice trembled slightly. I tried to pull my hand away but couldn't. "He's really not." "Then why did he call you? And in such an intimate tone?" Adrian's unreadable gaze locked onto me. My heart was pounding. What did he really want to know? Leo was just someone pursuing me. And I had only ever tried to find Adrian's shadow in him. Seeing my silence, Adrian suddenly let out a soft laugh. Then, without warning, he pulled me towards the bedroom. His bedroom. I couldn't fight his strength and was thrown onto the bed. Adrian leaned down, pinning me beneath him. The strong smell of alcohol enveloped us, his breathing growing ragged from the wine. "Little Jenna." His voice, low and hoarse, echoed in my ear, filled with obsession. If this had been 4 years ago, I would have been ecstatic, but now, this unfamiliar Adrian frightened me. Panic surged, and I quickly raised my hand to block the impending kiss. "Little uncle. You've had too much to drink." Adrian's lips curved into a half smile. "Oh. Then who was it that drank too much on your 18th birthday?" His words echoed in the quiet room, striking my heart with every beat. I couldn't stop myself from wanting to push him away and run. Adrian had to be drunk. A drunk person's words and actions couldn't be taken seriously. I had just managed to struggle free a few steps when he immediately chased after me. Again, he pulled me back, holding me tightly in his arms. His strong, steady heartbeat thudded in my ear, terrifyingly clear. "Do you really want to escape from me that badly?" My entire body went rigid as I felt a kiss land by my ear. Adrian's voice was obsessive and wild. 4 years apart, and your nerve to run from me has only gotten bigger. Should I tie little Jenna up so you can't run anymore? But in the end, Adrian didn't do anything too extreme, because I slapped him. I don't even remember how I got out of his house. I only remember that slap was so hard it made my hand go numb. The crisp sound echoed in the ambiguously charged room. Adrian's face was knocked to the side. He didn't speak for a long time. And I took advantage of his stillness, pulling open the door and running without hesitation. Relying on my own 2 feet, I rushed to the main road and flagged down a taxi. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. As soon as I closed my eyes, Adrian's deep, obsessive eyes would appear in my mind. That gaze seemed to see right through me, to burn me to ashes. I didn't understand what he was thinking. The person who had used his older status to reject me for over a decade was him. The person who pinned me to the bed and wanted to kiss me was also him. I didn't blame him. Or rather, perhaps I was just torturing myself. But I didn't hate being treated like that by him. Because from the very beginning, all along I have always liked him. But the Adrian now was too unfamiliar, making me doubtful. I blocked him again because I truly didn't know how to face him. I saw Adrian again a week later. The reason this time truly made me break down. It was, yet again, an order from my esteemed grandfather. He wanted me to intern at Adrian's company. To help me better understand how a business operates. He even specifically assigned me to be Adrian's assistant. Therefore, in front of grandfather, I could only brace myself and reluctantly face him again. But Adrian's gaze was incredibly calm. As if what happened that night was just my imagination. On the way to the company, he said nothing more, only explaining the job to me. It was the first time I had seen him in his work mode. Cold, serious, exuding an almost ascetic, tempting allure. I really started to wonder if I had just dreamed it. Of course, Adrian quickly used his actions to show me how could it possibly be a dream. When I received a video call from him, I had just finished showering and was halfway through drying my hair. He said it was urgent and he had to video call. I had no choice but to answer with my hair still wet. But I didn't expect the face on the screen to be flushed red, his eyes hazy. And my appearance, with wet hair draped over my shoulders, seemed to make Adrian pause for a moment too. "What's wrong, little uncle?" His voice was a bit congested, deep and hoarse. "Come over, bring fever medicine." "So, does this count as overtime for an assistant?" I quickly dried my hair, ran downstairs to buy medicine, and rushed to his house. The door was unlocked. I went straight into the bedroom. Sitting by the bed, I looked at his flushed face and felt a pang of pity. He really had a high fever, his forehead was burning. Why would he suddenly get a fever like this? "Little uncle, let me help you sit up to take your medicine." Adrian shook his head slightly, his eyes still hazy with fever. "Cold towel." I immediately went to the bathroom to get a cold towel for him. But as I turned to leave, I felt something wasn't right. I turned my head and looked at the bathtub, which was full of cold water. A strange suspicion popped into my head. I knelt and dipped my hand into the water, touching ice cubes that hadn't fully melted. Returning to the bedroom, I didn't dare to look Adrian in the eye anymore. I didn't want to admit the thought in my head, but I was beginning to understand. I was afraid my suspicion would turn out to be true. If I was right, then Adrian's scheme was just too little Jenna. As I placed the cold towel on his forehead, Adrian called my name softly. His tired, breathless appearance felt strangely familiar. He grabbed my hand and suddenly let out a soft laugh, as if he had achieved something. "Do you understand now?" For the first time, I saw an emotion in Adrian's eyes so intense it was overwhelming, stronger than liquor, more ferocious than fire. I persistently waited until his fever broke. And then I ran away once more. I didn't know how many more times I could run. I also didn't know what Adrian really wanted. I only knew that when he held my hand tightly, looked at me with those deep, obsessive eyes, and said slowly, "Don't call me little uncle anymore. Call me Adrian." Although I still didn't fully understand what was happening, I was certain of one thing. I probably couldn't escape Adrian's grasp anymore. No matter how good Leo was, he was just a substitute. I couldn't accept Leo's pursuit. After sending him a serious rejection message, I suddenly felt much lighter. Maybe I would be toyed with by Adrian forever. But who said I couldn't break free? I just didn't have enough courage or enough ability. Not long after Leo called. "Jenna, is there really no chance at all?" His voice was sincere. I looked out of the office and saw Adrian walking this way. Without hesitation, I answered firmly, "Yes." Leo sighed, then said, "Let's meet one last time. Consider it an end to this one-sided love." My impression of Leo had never been bad, so out of courtesy and to save face for us both, I agreed. I quickly hung up before Adrian entered the room. He didn't ask anything, just gave me a quick glance. After work, I went to the cafe Leo had suggested. He had already ordered the sweet coffee I liked, it was still steaming. Leo sat across from me, his face full of regret. "Jenna, I thought that after you returned, we would have a chance." His voice was full of longing. I sighed, deciding not to mention that I had once seen him as a substitute. That would be disrespectful. "I'm sorry. But I really can't accept." Leo was understanding, gesturing gently for me to drink my coffee. It's okay, it's okay." That was the last thing I heard before I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. A chill crept over my skin. It seemed like someone was taking off my clothes. "Leo." I couldn't believe my eyes. But Leo wore a look of vile satisfaction. The smile on his lips was utterly despicable. "Jenna, why did you have to be so hard to get? I've had countless women. But you're the most stubborn one. But it doesn't matter. After today, whether you want to or not, you'll have to." Those unfamiliar, filthy, and vicious words made my head spin. My body began to burn. Leo, you bastard, let me go. I tried to suppress the shock and disgust, pushing him away with all my might. But my arms were weak, completely devoid of strength. I could only let Leo continue to humiliate me and tear at my clothes. The fabric ripped, revealing my underwear. Tears of humiliation streamed down my cheeks. I tensed my body, using all my strength to kick him hard. I must have accidentally hit a vulnerable spot. Leo grunted in pain, staggering back 2 steps. Stop pretending. You're just a bargaining chip for a marriage alliance anyway. Isn't marrying me better than being married off to some stranger? My eyes were red. Tears of indignation and terror falling uncontrollably. Only one thought remained in my mind: little uncle, save me. Sirash. A sound shook the entire room as the door was kicked open. Adrian burst in, his face so dark it looked like ink could drip from it. Without a word, he kicked out hard. Leo, who was still on top of me, was kicked clean off the bed, letting out a pained groan. Adrian's voice was so cold it sounded like it came from hell. Are you tired of living? You dare to touch my person? I only heard a loud thud, followed by Leo's trembling pleas before he passed out. Adrian's arms were very warm, so warm they made my body feel even hotter. He carried me to the car. Just as he was about to start it, I unconsciously grabbed his hand, my breathing erratic, my whole body feeling like it was on fire. Little uncle, I feel so uncomfortable. Perhaps it was because my hand was too hot. Adrian's voice became hoarse, as if he was trying to restrain himself. What did you say? I clung to him, every word a plea. Little uncle, help me. After saying that, I couldn't stop myself from trying to climb onto him. At this point, Adrian finally realized something was wrong. His anger subsided, replaced by sharp awareness. He immediately buckled me tightly into the passenger seat, then slammed on the accelerator, taking off like a shot. In my haze, I heard his voice coming from far away. Hang on, little Jenna. The faint scent of tobacco on him seemed to become a catalyst in the confined space of the car. The car door flew open, and I was once again gathered into his arms. Adrian's body temperature was just as hot as mine, but his steps were hurried, urgent. After placing me on the bed, he immediately tried to leave. I instinctively grabbed his arm, my voice weak and whining. Little uncle. Adrian's entire body went rigid. His voice was clearly trembling, but he still tried to pry my hand off. Don't be like this. I didn't care anymore. This agonizing feeling was going to kill me. Without hesitation, I used all my strength to pull him down onto the bed and wrapped my arms around him. Adrian. Adrian's whole body tensed. He looked at me with disbelief. I could see the hesitation in his eyes. From the night he told me to call him that, this was the first time I'd actually said it. Can you bear to watch me suffer like this? I felt so awful, my head was spinning, I no longer cared what I was saying. You purposely gave yourself a fever to call me over. Wasn't that because you like me? Adrian's pupils contracted slightly, his thin lips pressed tightly together. But he didn't say anything. I pressed my advantage, leaning down to kiss him. Adrian's eyes widened. The next second, I was flipped over and pinned underneath him. The heat from his lips was scalding, his voice hoarse, the emotions suppressed for so many years exploding in this one moment. You brought this on yourself. A chaotic night passed. I woke up in Adrian's arms, but this time, he was already awake and watching me intently. The moment I opened my eyes, his gaze terrified me. Want to run again? His voice was a little hoarse. I only just realized my wrist was locked to the headboard. By that bracelet. A delicate chain, yet it bound me tightly to his world. Adrian's gaze once again revealed that terrifying obsession. Little Jenna, your taste in men is really getting worse. His voice was slow and deep, carrying an unpredictable danger. Adrian placed a stack of photos in front of me. They were pictures of Leo happily surrounded by countless other women, mostly in extravagant nightclubs and bars. There were even quite a few explicit photos that would make one blush and their heart pound. The more I looked, the more stunned I became. Not for any other reason, but because I never expected Leo had been deceiving me for so long. It made sense. I remembered he was a playboy from the start, including that night. The woman's voice calling him on the phone. Perhaps even as he was pretending to call me, he was surrounded by countless other girls. His so-called pursuit was just a way to use my Fu family status. As long as he got close to my family, the Meng family would have a chance to climb to a higher social class. Adrian snorted, his tone full of sarcasm. You'd better not tell me you liked him because he looks like me. I was so embarrassed I wanted to dig a hole and crawl into it. I could only lower my head and nod meekly. Adrian looked at me, his expression twisting, as if he was extremely displeased. He clicked his tongue, wishing he could have knocked some sense into me sooner. I looked up at him and asked softly, but didn't you always reject me? Who knew I would get an answer that stunned me? Because you weren't of age yet, I'm not that much of a bastard. His voice was low, his fingers tilting my chin up. His deep eyes were filled with long suppressed emotions. It was so hard waiting for you to finally come of age, and then you ran away that very night. And you ran for 4 whole years. Well done. A cold smile flashed in his eyes, sending a chill down my spine. But I liked it. I hesitated, asking, how did you know I was at Leo's house? Adrian lifted my wrist, which was still locked to the headboard by the bracelet. Under the light, the pink diamond sparkled just like it always had. He smiled and said softly, there's a tracker inside it. I stared dumbfounded at the gemstone I loved most, completely speechless. My jaw nearly dropped to the floor. Adrian looked at me, his gaze falling on my slightly parted lips. He slowly leaned in, his voice low and hoarse, carrying an undeniable command. Say it again, little Jenna. It turns out Adrian wasn't just sick, he was seriously sick. My love for him was clear and straightforward, but his love for me was a wild obsession. He said that year, when he saw me about to hug the school heartthrob, he had even thought of ways to make that guy disappear from the face of the earth. He originally wanted to punish me severely, but in the end, he couldn't bring himself to do it, so he just cut my cherry ration as a warning. The night of my 18th birthday, he had planned to wait for me to wake up and explain everything, but I ran away the moment I opened my eyes. And I ran for 4 years. For the past 4 years, he rejected countless marriage proposals, waiting day and night for my return, and the result? I not only came back, but I brought a pursuer with me. He chuckled softly, leaning down to place a light kiss on my forehead. Don't worry, little Jenna. The Meng family will disappear. Anyone who humiliated you, anyone who hurt you. Adrian will not spare a single one. All the problems had been resolved, but I suddenly realized the biggest problem was still ahead of us. Our relationship. I looked at him, flustered, and stammered, but, you're my little uncle. Adrian froze for a second, then let out a laugh that was both angry and resigned. When you confessed to me all those times before, why didn't you think about me being your little uncle? He squeezed my cheek, grinding out each word. Or is this another one of your tricks? Sleep with me and then run. I was just about to explain when Adrian pressed his forehead against mine. His voice was deep, carrying a trace of tenderness. Don't worry. I didn't understand what "don't worry" meant, but I soon found out. When I heard grandfather and my father confirm the truth, I almost spat out my water. Adopted. My father nodded seriously, explaining slowly, that year, your grandfather met a very accurate feng shui master. He said our family was missing a child for our fortune to be complete. So we went to the orphanage to see if there was a suitable child. Your little uncle was exceptionally intelligent. Grandfather took a liking to him instantly. Otherwise, why would I let you call a young kid like him uncle? It was like a light bulb went off. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What the hell? Adrian smiled, his deep eyes holding a hint of teasing. So, we're not blood related. My surname is Beau, Adrian Beau. Whether it was Adrian or Adrian Beau, both names were heart-stoppingly beautiful. I looked into his expressive eyes, suddenly at a loss for words. And Adrian? He had gone directly to grandfather and my father to ask for my hand in marriage. When the 2 old men first heard the news, their jaws nearly hit the floor. Even if we weren't blood related, I had still been calling him little uncle for so many years. My grandfather frowned, looking extremely troubled. I sighed and finally decided to tell them the story about Leo. Only then did grandfather understand why Adrian had been so ruthless and had wiped out the Meng family. The entire Meng Corporation's assets were frozen overnight, disappearing from the business world. It really has been a while, hasn't it? Grandfather huffed. As for Leo, the man who tried to humiliate me, even his whereabouts were unknown. Only I knew that Adrian had personally gone out to settle the score. That day, when he returned, his usually immaculate suit was disheveled. There were even bloodstains on the lapel. Under the lights, Adrian in his blood-stained clothes exuded a terrifying coldness. Like the living king of hell, Leo had been incapacitated as a man by him. He'd fled back to his hometown broken, and never dared to show his face in society again. In the end, grandfather slammed the table and made his decision. Fertile water shouldn't be allowed to flow into others' fields. The Fu family doesn't necessarily have to have a marriage alliance. My treasure marrying someone from the family, I'm even more at ease. On the wedding day, the sky was clear blue, and white doves fluttered overhead. In front of all our guests, Adrian and I exchanged wedding rings. Afterward, he pulled me into his arms and gave me a deep kiss. Amidst the applause and blessings from all around, his low voice sounded in my ear, soft enough for only me to hear. Wife, did you know? My face flushed. You change your address for me pretty quickly. I glanced at him, shyly asking, no what? Adrian took my hand, lifted it gently, and placed a kiss on the wedding ring. Then he smiled, leaned close and said slowly, this one also has a tracking device inside. My face darkened. He really was sick, very sick. I stared at him stunned, then suddenly burst out laughing. Oh, then guess whether your wedding ring has one or not. Adrian paused for a second, then his gaze grew even deeper and hotter. Good thing it does. If it didn't, I would be very angry, and the consequences would be very serious. I smiled, standing on my tiptoes to kiss him. From now on, we will walk together to the end of our lives. It's an honor to be with you. The most significant lesson from this story is the importance of confronting the truth and communicating clearly in love. The heroine's 4-year flight, rooted in guilt and misunderstanding over their uncle-niece relationship, not only wasted time but nearly led her to disaster. Similarly, the hero's silence about his true feelings, his obsessive nature, and the fact that he was adopted, only amplified the conflict. The story demonstrates that no matter how intense or possessive love is, it can only reach a happy ending when both people bravely face their true emotions and resolve misunderstandings directly, rather than letting fear and assumptions dictate their lives.